So the games community is an incredible community. I feel incredibly blessed to be working in the industry and basically be part of this, gaming world and be part of this industry. And I know for a fact that the games community is incredibly powerful and very knowledgeable, and I have the utmost respect. So in this video, I want to talk about how important it is for developers to listen to their games community, to their gaming community, to the community around the game. Gamers are very vocal and they actually have very strong opinions and sometimes can be negative, but if you really listen, especially to the constructive criticism, you normally get a lot from it for your game. And I do think that there's so much value in this that I think it's foolish not to listen to it. And because we now have a new studio, Proxima Studio, that I'm working with, I feel that I need to talk to this because I had some wonderful experiences, but also some really negative experiences. And I've learned from both. So let's get to it. Welcome to another video. My name is Harvey Newman. If you're new here, I speak about animation and games development a lot of the time. Also, recently I started my own studio called Proxima Studio with a bunch of other veteran developers. We're having lots of fun developing the game, working on a specific IP, and cannot wait to show you more. At the moment it's a bit hush-hush. We don't want to spoil the surprise, but once we do, I think you guys are going to like it. Fingers crossed. And talking about community, I really would like to hear your feedback once that day comes along. Now, I want to talk about the community behind each individual game. Every game out there, doesn't matter if it's Apex or Call of Duty or, Cuphead, right? Every game has a community around it, right? If you go to Reddit, you can find them. If you go to Discord, you can find them. People want to be vocal. People want to actually talk about the game. People want to give their opinions about the game. And I think that the gaming community is the most vocal, the most engaged out there. If you think about it, when you watch a movie, when you finish reading a comic or a graphic novel, when you finish reading a book, it's very difficult for you to then go out and then make a community about the book or about the film. People just go watch the movie, come back home, and then unless the movie is absolutely epic, people never talk about it again, right? And that's about it. Same thing with the book. There's book clubs, right? But it's not like around a specific book. It's about maybe the author or a range of different books, but that's about it. So gaming is the only thing that when you come out there and just release a Call of Duty or release a Splinter Cell or anything like that, then all of a sudden people are like, I spend so many hours in this game, I want to go ahead and meet up with other people that feel as passionate as I am about this game that I spend about 60 hours, 100 hours playing. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about my feelings, what's good, what's bad, what needs to be improved, some of the things that I like to actually see going forward, all of that stuff. And to me, that's special. That's incredibly special. Unfortunately, I've worked in a lot of games previously over the years that basically developers don't listen to their community. They basically been developing this IP that is beloved for years, but turns out that what the community say doesn't really matter, right? And I understand from a developer standpoint where that comes from. However, I don't really agree with it. And I think since I've been developing games since the early 2000s, I think this idea of being secret, all the NDAs, all the don't see the game until the very last minute and then we show you our game, working behind closed doors, making sure that you don't tell anything about the game to anybody. All of those things over the years have created this feeling of secrecy, but the problem is that also created this feeling of like insulation, right? Like we are developing the game, we know best, we need to work on this under our roof, not tell anybody until it's ready, and then when it's ready, it needs to be ready some more, and when it's ready, it needs to be ready some more, and maybe then we can give a glimpse, but not too much because we don't want to be like, taken away from our path. We already committed to a certain path. We already have production and deadlines and all that stuff. So if you show it to the community, what happens if they don't like it? So you just keep on working on this way, and then you put your blinkers on or put your blinders on, and then you just keep on working that way. So this is what's been happening over the years. However, what has changed has been the multiplayer community, the sequential games, the the episodic games that have come along, right? So now, at least when that started coming true in my career, it became almost like a clash of ideals, right? Now there was one part that was thinking we need to work on this, isolated way, and then even if we put it out episodically, we need to do it like in a way that is a surprise. So we do it, and then surprise, here it is, and then you take the bad, you take the good, you learn from it, and then on the next second part, you just do the same thing, surprise, and then you continue doing the same thing. And then now, lately, which is great, developers have starting to kind of like really listening to their community much more. So something that I like, and is slightly controversial, is the early access, because I do think there is appeal and there is a lot of kind of like potential and power in showcasing the game as early as possible to your game base, especially if it's an IP that people know. So they can test it, they can play it, they can give you feedback. Not all feedback is going to be constructive. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to give you the feedback of like, this is shit, and that's about it. They don't say anything else. So that feedback is not useful. But for those that are actually really engaged and come up with proper constructive ideas that make sense, they know the product through and through, and they're almost like developers adjacent to development, and they spend as much time, if not more, than you playing the game and coming up with like loopholes and things that are problematic with the game. Those people are incredibly valuable to a game. My best experience so far when it comes to community was Battlefront 2. Now, when I started working on Battlefront 2, as everybody knows, the release of that game was problematic to say the least, to be kind with it, because of the loot boxes, and that's when the whole loot box stuff started happening and all that stuff. However, the nucleus of the game was incredibly strong. We believed in it, or at least a few people that stayed behind believed in it, and we could see the potential of the game. It was just not really fulfilled just yet. One of the first things that we did, and shout out to Dennis, the game director, because he was really good at that, it was to basically start listening to the community about the things that were broken and what was the most broken and the most problematic thing, like out of all the things that we had to go through, and let's fix that, right? And then once we fix that and people are happy and the feedback is out and the game is out or the update is out, what is the second most and what is the third most? And just keep going down that list as much as possible to kind of like go through the game and make it as good of a game as possible. And half of it was basically us as developers having ideas and knowing where the game needs to be and being respectful and working with Lucasfilm and making sure that everything was right within the universe, because obviously Star Wars is a very valuable, very appreciated universe that you need to respect if you're going to work on it. But the other half of the equation was us listening to the community that are equally, if not more knowledgeable than us when it comes to all things Star Wars. So because we started doing those two things, the sentiment of the community started from going incredibly negative of like, this game is shit, it's never going to go anywhere, you better die. There was complaints, there was threats, there was all kinds of stuff for pretty much every developer that worked on Battlefront, to then becoming slightly more positive, right? We delivered one thing, it was like, okay, they're going to deliver this thing, they're going to disappear, deliver another thing, okay, maybe they're actually in a row, I wonder what's coming next, delivering the third thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this guy seems to know what they are doing and they're listening to us, so let's stick around. And then the more we did it, the more we started getting the fans back that left, because they started understanding that the game actually was starting to be good, you should go out and play it. And eventually we got a re-review from IGN that went from something like 6.5, I think it was, in the original release, to about 8.9, I think it was. It was incredibly fulfilling after about a year and a half of working on it to see IGN giving us props for all the work that we did, because we felt incredibly proud of what we achieved, and we felt that as rare as it is to have a positive community at Reddit, we got that. And same thing on Twitter. And people were very much defending us, even without us having to intervene, about the work that we did, which was incredibly powerful. So all that to say this, at Proxima, we're developing a game that is based on a beloved IP that is slightly niche. And the team is very appreciative, not only of the IP, but the authors of the IP, the creators of the IP. And we want to make right by them, but we also want to make sure that the community, everybody that has seen the IP, has read the IP, has watched the IP, everybody that has is a fan that we listen to them about their ideas for our game. Not that we're going to take them, but we like to hear them, because we're going to have a lot of blind spots, which happens with most developers, and you don't know it. You can have 500 people working on a project. You don't know it until somebody in the community goes, if you guys thought about this, this is not there. And because you're so focused, laser focused on producing a game based on a certain standard, and you just in it, and you have deadlines, and you stop seeing it, right? So we need the eyes, the external eyes of a community to be able to tell us this doesn't fit, or this is not right, or this is correct, or I love this thing, I think this thing should be tweaked over here. And all the things, all the signals that we get, we're going to listen to them. We're going to take them very, respect them a lot. We're going to take them very seriously. And then we're going to analyze and really double check ourselves to make sure that this is correct. This is something people want. And that it goes double for gameplay. When we start developing and delivering builds for our Discord community, go and join us if you haven't so far. I'll leave a link down below. When we start developing builds, demo builds, we're not going to call it early access because it's a bit controversial at this point. But what we want really is to kind of drop a build, allow people to play them for a little bit, give us feedback, right? Play it, give us feedback. Play it, give us feedback, and be incredibly on top of just constantly developing new builds to deliver to the community so we can get feedback. I'm really big into QA. I'm really big into getting people to give us feedback all the time, because only then, when you become incredibly laser focused on getting that cycle of playing the game and getting people external to the game with no biases, playing the game and genuinely giving you a realistic view of what's good and what's bad, only then you can have a real sense of how fun or how bad your game is. So I want to do that as early as possible. So the reason why I'm doing this video, first and foremost, not only to give you the chops about the community, the importance of community, and how much we appreciate community at Proxima, but also for you guys to join us if you feel passionate about making games, about testing games, about giving feedback about games. We would like to have you guys as well, especially the animation community out there. If you guys come along and test the game and give us feedback on animation, will be absolutely amazing, right? Our game is going to be a linear narrative experience. It's going to be story driven, so we also need people that actually can give us the depth, right, of the game. This feels too repetitive, we need more information here, we need to expand over there, things like that. So all the aspiring game designers, aspiring people that actually want to actually get into, level design or character design, all of those people that actually have an eye for these things and knack for these things, will absolutely love your feedback. And finally, I don't think we are ever going to go away from having the feedback from a games community anymore. I think the faster and the earlier a company like our own gets to grips with the fact that the community is the most valuable, most incredible thing they have, and they should respect it, they should listen, they should build it as early as possible, the more successful the game is going to be. And I think that there's lots of developers out there, they have an old school mentality of being insular and not listening to the community. But I do think that those are going to be far and few between now and a few years from now. I think it's important, it's essential to listen to the community, because it's almost a shame that people ignore how passionate gamers are and how much they want to help develop a game, right? Any Call of Duty fan or any FIFA fan will tell you straight away how bad the game is for these reasons, right? And the things they need to improve on these ones. And 5 years ago, they released a game that was way better for these reasons, right? And they have strong opinions, and especially the ones that have constructive criticism, they can list exactly why they have those opinions, and those opinions are normally valid. And if you listen to those opinions and you take some of those stuff and put it in your game as early as possible, before things can become just ingrained in rock and this is going to be the game and it's not going to change. I think the earliest you can do that, the more impactful and the better game you can make. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So if you guys here until now and you're still with me, I highly appreciate it. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below about the game that is more precious to you when it comes to community sentiment, positive experiences, negative experiences. If there's any game out there that you absolutely rage quit and you're like, that's it, this game is like horrible, is dead to me, why was that, right? And also the opposite, like what is the game that you played recently that you absolutely love and you're like, man, this game is perfection. For me, is Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda. Oh my god, best Zelda game ever, and I cannot have enough of that game. I'm obsessed with the game. So many things done right. Shout out to Nintendo for making games that we all love, not based on graphics, but based on gameplay and design. Oh my god, they are amazing. So that's it. That's all I had for you guys. Shout out to my Patreon community for supporting me every single month. And as always, stay well, stay safe. Peace.